To order the meeting of the Common Council for, what is today, August the 1st? If everyone would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. Mr. Campbell, will you lead us, please?
Gracious God, we thank you for another day. Day we have not seen before. We thank you, God, for allowing us to be here. Thank you, God, for bringing us through this day. I ask you, God, to continue to be with this council, be with them, and continue to protect them, keep them, and to help to give them what they need, Lord. Keep them strengthened, bless their families, keep their families protected. Help them, Lord, to make the decisions they need to make for our community. Help them to also, Lord, use the wisdom that you've given them to make the right decisions, God. And Lord, we thank you for giving them the spirit of wanting to do this job, God. Everybody doesn't want to take time out of their day to do this, but God, thank you for letting them think that they love this community enough to represent us in our different districts and at large. God, we ask you to bless all of our staff in our city. Bless them and keep them. Watch over them. As you bless our mayor, Lord, we ask you to bless our governor and also the president of this country. We ask you, God, also to bless our first responders, continue to be with them, God. We understand how dangerous it is for them to do what they do. Lord, we appreciate what they do. We don't take for granted what they do. And God, we ask you to continue to watch over them and keep them protected. We ask it all in the name of Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilperson White.
Present.
Councilperson Sostovny.
Present.
Councilperson Yon.
Present.
Councilperson Maples.
Here.
Councilperson Gill.
Present.
Council President Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Hawkins.
Here.
Councilperson Rodriguez.
Present.
Let the record reflect 8 council members present. Councilperson Samuel out.
Okay. Minutes to approve from July the 18th.
Make a motion to approve the council regular proceedings of July 18, 2016. I'll second.
This motion and second to approve. I'll be abstaining due to an absence. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. And Ms. Conlon, can we have, I guess it would be Vice President White that would sign these, right? Since I was absent.
What's it say on there?
It says me, which it normally would.
You can sign them.
Okay. Just checking.
Yeah.
Just so you know, you didn't lose your space.
Right. All right, motion passes. Approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion. Second. And a second to approve the agenda. Anything further? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Claims?
I have a few adjustments. I have one hand carry claim for Celebrate USA Corp. It's for $3,098.99. It was a bill that was due last year, so that's why it kind of needs to be paid as quickly as possible. That one's from the police department for their computer software.
How much was that?
$3,098.99. And then I have,
There's some more.
if you go to page 7 of your claims, close to the middle of the page is a claim for Nikki Learning for May and June mileage. It's $184.20 and $186.19. Do you see those two?
Yes.
We did an audit of the mileage, and it actually needs to be for the May mileage. It needs to be $195.16, which is an increase of $10.96. And then for June, it's $198.50, which is an increase of $12.31.
Okay, we were going to pull that, but you went ahead and got the...
We got all the
everything in order.
information. Mhm.
Okay. And Nikki was notified? She's aware?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that's not...
Actually worked out better in her favor, yeah.
We're going to adjust it.
Okay.
Except we have to, did you have a new docket for her to sign where?
It
didn't
includes
take
those
the-
changes on there, yeah. Mhm.
Well, also, we got to put the things in parks into contractual services.
Yep, that was my next thought,
Oh,
yep.
sorry.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's okay. And then on page 10, you'll see at the bottom of the page, there's some claims to Tons of Fun inflatables. There's 3 there, and then there are 4 on the next page. And those, instead of coming out of other supplies, comes out of contractual services. So within the increase of $3,098.99, the $10.96, and the $12.31, that new total is $1,168,450.14.
I did come in this morning and went over all the credit card claims, so it reminded me at the end that anybody needs to volunteer to help me with all the credit card, with the new ordinance and all that. So far it's just me, but that's okay. But also, I wanted to bring it, I don't know if you, I can't remember, I didn't mark what page it was because I got a different claims list now, but we're doing a transfer out in parks, out of gaming. And
Out of gaming or out of the Parks Fund?
we were doing it out of gaming into River Stage, I thought. Or,
That $247,000, that's in the regular Parks Fund on page 8.
125.
125,000 out of gaming, I know I saw it.
Oh, is it on there too?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 2 transfers. Normally you budget some out of gaming and some out of the parks.
Yeah, I know when I questioned this earlier, you had said that, so the only reason why I'm bringing this up is I went back through my notes. We need to make a mental note when we're going through budget because remember during budget time we had said we're not going to be taking any more out of gaming for parks because they have their sponsorship. Remember when we talked about that? Sure, Ed, you remember?
Yeah.
We agreed, and so this is a huge amount of gaming, which will wipe out our gaming. So it's something you all need to keep in mind, which they said it was, but I went back on my notes during our budget hearings, and we were very specific about all of that, so.
Do
I
you
just
want
wanted
to
to bring
pull
that
that claim for
226.
Well, it's up
The
to
gaming?
the,
Is it passed in the budget?
There.
I mean, it's a budgeted amount, isn't it?
It is a budgeted amount, but you're right that it was supposed to be offset by the revenues from the donations.
well, I guess
Revenues
I,
weren't there?
huh?
I'm assuming the revenues weren't there from,
For River
I
Stage,
thought they'd be spending twice the amount of money of which they originally
Yeah,
planned to spend.
yeah, we really got to talk about part, that's for another day, but I just wanted to bring that to your all's attention and that future, that, that this will pretty much deplete our gaming, so.
yeah, River Stage donations that we've received so far this year has been $84,750. It's on page 20 of your account balance report that I just gave you all.
Now, is that including or is that minus what we pay out to Dave Simpson because he gets his?
That's the revenue part, not the expenditure part.
is that including the donation from last week from redevelopment?
If it's been receipted in, I'm not sure. Was that going into River Stage?
I'm not sure if it was specifically River Stage, it might have been.
And then the
You're on-
donations?
You're on the
That was
Parks
first.
Authority. They're
Yeah.
doing a lot of,
It's
of course, it makes it hard because we do the claims but yet they make,
I don't know.
I don't really know what they all approved or what, but the spending really has me concerned, especially when I went back, because it was in our minutes, and I meant to, of course, I walked off and left everything at home today, but I'll do whatever, but I just wanted to make sure we did bring that to everyone's attention, and because here we are in July, and gaming's been kind of our
Right.
backfall on different things, especially since we took, for the circuit breakers, we took pretty much all of our cushion out of city council's budget to
Right.
preserve their budgets.
We took,
How about we pull it or reduce the amount? And if we reduce the amount and they need more, they can come to see us. I'd like for
I
them to
think
come and
that's fair.
explain why they're asking for such a large amount.
I don't think they're asking for it. I think it was budgeted, and now we're taking it out of the, not doing the transport that was budgeted and approved last year, but,
When I say reduction, I'm thinking maybe to reduce,
yeah,
to
that,
make, compensate for the 80, we say 84,000 that came in from
There's
the partners program?
72,000 in that balance. Am I reading that correctly, Heather?
Well, actually, it was budgeted at 12,000. It actually came in more, 72,000
Oh, so
more
the
than,
additional, I see.
right. So, but you can see that your cash balance is only at 46,000 right now, and they still have 137,000 in budget to
The thing is, we
spend.
didn't know what the partners would bring. We didn't know if
Exactly.
to bring in 10,000 or 100,000.
Right.
You know.
Well, and then plus keep in mind, they have been taking quite a bit in the beginning of the year from open park space.
Right.
So, I mean, it seems like they're grabbing from every which way. I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. So I'll do whatever you all want. We can pass that is, since it's already budgeted. I'm sure they've probably already have it planned for these events coming up, but I don't know.
yeah, I'm not
Have you all
sure.
discussed it?
I'm not sure. The transfer from the gaming revenue wasn't discussed at the last meeting, so I'm not sure. I know they have put together a finance committee amongst the new authority to try to get a handle on the finances, and met with Heather last week, but I'm not sure what they need as far as the transfer out or not.
Dustin, do you want them to come and talk to us?
About this, yeah?
I'm okay with that. I like that. It's a good idea.
Because,
Sounds
and
good.
if we do the math, the 46,000 that it has now, plus they have a budget of 137,000, so they would need about, 90,000 to get through to the end of the year if they spend 100% of their budget. And then that leaves them with nothing left over at the end of the year for next year's. So then donations can start again. So that's just a thought too.
So is that 80 some odd thousand in revenue that hasn't been budgeted though?
Correct.
So, I mean, that's,
So the expenditure, if they only have a cash balance of 46, then they're spending more than what was
Right, because we assumed at the time of budget that the revenue for that transfer in was going to be 273,000, because the balance between that 125 comes out of the parks, and we had to cut that for the circuit breaker. So that's why it's only at the 125 rather than at the 273. So you've already cut the revenue some.
right. If there needs to be more explanation, I think we can invite Paul to the next meeting and just put it on pause.
Well, these claims are in huge amounts and these transfers are in huge amounts. I think that it'd be beneficial even to the public to know where their tax money's going, so.
Right. Well, gaming's not tax money, and it is budgeted every year, but we do that transfer every year. But I think he can come and just give us a little rundown on it.
So minus 125,000, you want to take that one off the claims, or?
I think that's the consensus.
Okay. Okay, so the new total is 1,043,450 and 14 cents.
Okay. Appreciate that. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the claims with the hand carries and the additionals, and then minus the 125,000 to bring us to the total of the 1,043,450 and 14 cents.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Report of the clerk.
Couple things. We've talked about updating the Laserfish and with the virtualization. So past couple weeks, Matt Dyer has worked with Laserfish, and we have it updated. We're working out the kinks right now with it on our end. It seems really very good. This is something that we were on the 5.1 version, and we're now on 10.1. If you all recall, the ones that had been on the council prior, they had let the license lapse, and then we had to renew the license, and we've been doing that every year. And then we found out our server would not hold the updates. So that's one of the reasons with the virtualization. So, and we'll be working on seeing how it does in the public documents. Right now, we're working on making sure that 2014, 15, and 16 are searchable easier. So we're working on that. And the other thing is the GRC Junior Little League was coming tonight to thank you all, but they didn't get in till late last night and went to school. So I'm sure they'll be here the next meeting. And I don't know if you all saw the cheers and jeers, but I cheered you all for
Thank you
donating the money,
thank
the FOP, the fire union, and mayor for the donations. And the kids really did appreciate it. So I want to thank you. And the last thing is, you notice Mr. Merkley's not here tonight. Hopefully tomorrow he'll be a daddy. So that's it.
Okay. Unfinished business, Heather Metcalf, 2016 OR 43, transfer ordinance.
There's been no changes since the last meeting.
Motion to pass 2016 OR 43 in the third and final reading.
Second.
Motion and second. Anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. And Ms. Metcalf again, this will be a public hearing for 2016 OR 44.
Yes, there's been no changes to this one also.
This is an ordinance of additional appropriation. Is there anybody here to speak for or against the ordinance? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to pass 2016 OR 44 in the third and final.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Pass OR 2016 OR 44 on the third and final reading. Anything further? Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
New business, Nathan Pruitt.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
As planners do, I'm going to switch because I've got a couple maps. We like to show maps, so 1 second. All right, we're set. Thank you.
Help you.
No, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so this is an amendment to the zoning code, and as you recall, we had a workshop back on July 26th, and we had discussed 3 changes to the zoning code. One is the adoption of some standards relating to gas stations. The next portion is going to be updates to the use tables. And the third, and some clarifications to those uses. And then the third piece is an overlay district. This is what's called an exclusionary overlay district. And basically, this comes to you as a favorable recommendation from City Council, Planning Commission. And they met on June 27th and gave a favorable recommendation, which you have in your packet there. And basically, I can discuss any of the specifics with you, but I'm going to make this as brief as I can here. We have obviously a new comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2015. And part of that was the creation of the identification of the traditional marketplace corridor planning district. So if you look in this area right here, beginning basically at the new auto auction site and then flowing all the way down to the 10th Street ramp, this is that new planning district. And obviously, it identifies an area of town where we'd like to see a lot of pedestrian-oriented development. We'd like to see things that have a focus on shopping and sit-down dining. We'd like to do offices, mixed-use buildings, storefronts, maybe some multi-structure. That would be great, or multi-story, rather. We'd like to take into account all modes of users. We'd like people to be able to stop and make multiple shopping trips within the same stop rather than having to drive to each individual access point. So that's kind of the overarching idea behind that planning district. Obviously, that's in the historically original 10th Street area, the first commercial areas that were developed as we've gone out. And so that's one map to take note of. So this overlay district is in coordination with that planning district. And the other thing in our comprehensive plan that is of special note with this is Chapter 7. This is our special focus area for economic development chapter, which identifies areas within the city that are seeing great change or that need some special attention. So you can see those here, and within that you can see the 10th Street revitalization corridor here, which obviously is a bit distressed in some of its land use and values. Obviously we're pumping in lots of public funds with the 10th Street road project, which is going to create some visual enhancements with some landscaping, going to make it safer, some more lighting. It's going to improve the look and feel of that area. And that should be all for those maps. So basically, we're looking to support redevelopment efforts on 10th Street. We're looking to re-energize that initial segment of 10th Street. This coordinates with redevelopment projects that we're looking at doing as far as, or programs rather, looking at the 10th Street area. Obviously, we did the loans and facade grants on Spring Street. That's worked out marvelously. We've got new restaurants downtown. They're very successful. We're wanting to shift some of that focus now to 10th Street and bring some life back to 10th. So we've got the traditional marketplace planning district, which defines the intent of that area. We've got 2 new zoning classifications, traditional marketplace 1 and 2. That was adopted last year by council and favorably recommended by Plan Commission. And basically that zoning classification opens up and expands the range of uses, gives greater flexibility for land developers that want to develop smaller lots like the Waffle House. So it's going to make them easier, it's going to give them an easier time to carve out new lots. We've got the 10th Street widening / road project that's occurring. And then of course we're doing redevelopment incentives as well and moving that to 10th Street. So all of those forces combine together, and this tool, this overlay district, gives us kind of one of the final pieces of the puzzle. It starts to formally make a recommendation as to where the city wants to go in that area with future uses. So, we talked a lot about in that council workshop incentivizing businesses and how can we move it forward that way. Obviously, we've got those redevelopment efforts that I'm going to work with the redevelopment office. But one of the things that I kept trying to mention was until you define what you want it to be, you'll get more of the same. So this is kind of that official policy statement and that official regulatory tool that actually makes that statement that this is where we're going to be headed towards. And this is in support of all those other efforts and all those other planning initiatives that I previously spoke to. So that's kind of the large overview, if it were. I know I sent this out a while back seeking any comment. I don't know if you all had some questions based on what was provided in the packet, but that's going to conclude what I have to say for now.
Mr. President, we did not realize, I was thumbing through the packet, and we weren't told there's supposed to have been a public hearing tonight.
Yeah, there was, I spoke with Les about that. There was a notice that was advertised.
Yeah, but they didn't tell us to
Okay.
put it on the agenda.
We'll mark it on there.
I was actually going to ask that, Nathan, before we go into the public, was there much public comment during the planning and zoning? 'Cause I'm
There was
sorry I
none.
missed that.
There was no opposition or favor, actually. It was a light night. Yeah. And then in Exhibit C, you see there, I actually broke this down parcel by parcel, so there's no ambiguity as to the overall area that we're speaking to. I did not create a parcel list per se, but I think the maps are quite nice. And then if you wanted to see kind of the overall, hand sketched. Until this is officially adopted, I'll give this to John Paul and he'll make it official. But basically, and this is actually something I failed to really mention all along, is it overlaps with our commercial corridor overlay district, which has some higher design standards, or at least the mitigation of outdoor storage and some aesthetic improvements. So it's actually in alignment with even another planning tool that we have already on the books. And you can see that hatch mark there. It's the large hatches there. And like I said before, it begins at the 10th Street exit, and then it goes from 65, and then it goes to the new auto auction site.
Scott, is this one vote then?
Yeah, it's just one reading because it's a zoning ordinance.
Okay. At this time, we'll open a public hearing, and I do have one person at least signed for public comment, Stacy Thompson.
There it is.
Wrong button. Ms. Thompson, if you'll just say your name and address for the record, and then we'll have 3 minutes after you do that.
Okay. I'm Stacy Thompson. I live at 3120 Georgian Way. A lot of really great things about this plan that I like. I do have some concerns, but I'll start with the good things. The commercial and residential buildings using a vertical mix, I think that's great. I think it's very forward-thinking. Parking lots in the back, shared parking lots between buildings, love all that. My concern obviously is who's going to be the cheerleader for this, and how long is this project going to take? You know, I'm a property owner very near this new TIF district, so that I understand. I lived there for about 14 years up until this spring, and you know, it is a very distressed part of 10th Street, and everybody in Jeff knows where it is and drives through it quite often, and we all want to see it change. My concern is, what is the length of time that it's going to take for that to happen? And we really need somebody pushing, you know, somebody, redevelopment, city council. I don't really know how that works, but I think that we need a big cheerleader to make this happen. We have a lot going on the Veterans Parkway side, and a lot going on in River Ridge, and a lot going on downtown, and we've all been great cheerleaders for those projects. But because of the low income apartments and houses in that area, I fear that the overlay district may push some businesses from coming to that area because they don't meet that new plan, and then we end up with more empty lots and a longer period of time before we can bring other businesses there. I don't know what the answer is. Maybe there's something with redevelopment that can purchase some of that land as it becomes available or dilapidated. I don't know the answer to that. But I do have some concerns of this and the residents in that low-income area. I think that we need to take that into very deep consideration before this passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
Ms. Thompson, I want to respond to that if you want to come back up. I share your same concerns, and I think much the council members do. I know Callie and I have talked extensively about this. I said that when I was president last year, I met quite a bit with Rob Ways and his teams on board. I said, it's really going to be, everybody's going to have to champion this. It's going to have to be redevelopment, it's going to have to be city council, and planning and zoning. Of course, planning and zoning really can't get involved until somebody comes and files an application. So it's going to be up to really redevelopment and city council to do the forward thinking. There's areas that we may be able to declare a blighted area. Only the council can do that. Try to offer some incentives, get some grants or things to do that. Maybe if we clear off some blighted areas, of course that would be redevelopment. Mm-hmm. But with the council support, we both have a role to play that I think we can provide a nice little canvas area that might entice somebody to come in and say, oh wow, that's more property there. As you can see, we got a lot of empty spaces up and down 10th Street. So that was kind of the forward thinking that I I've been discussing with Callie, and she's been having a lot of good ideas, so I feel confident that, especially now with having a council person on, she's been taking that and asking the questions and meeting about that, so we just have to keep it pushing, and it's up to you to where we at, keep our feet to the fire so we don't backslide.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, is there any others that would like to speak in favor or against the ordinance? Yes, sir. Mr. Hutt.
Cut 2123 East 10th Street. I'm not too sure that I understood this correctly, but this ordinance is going to require all new businesses to have their parking lots in the back of the business, which is just the opposite of what has been taking place. Is that what I understood?
New development.
New development.
Right. Mr. Pruitt? Okay. Mr. Pruitt said he would address that in just a minute.
Okay. Is that what is going to take place on the other end of 10th Street with the new developments coming in?
I believe it's a consistent plan, but I would have Mr. Pruitt answer that.
And to me, it looks like doing that, which is counter to what everyone has been doing for the past 50, 60 years, and Jeff, is going to make it harder to develop and get developers come in.
Is your concern with the big boxes, or,
Any of them.
well, when you go up 10th Street, you pretty much park?
All of them now are, the parking lots are in the front. I don't know. It's just, first I heard about it, and I was just asking for some clarification.
Okay. Mr. Pruitt?
That's a good question. So anything that you're passing tonight does not change any of our parking development standards at all within our zoning code. So the distribution rates of 70, 30, and 10 being side, front, and rear are unchanged. There is traditional marketplace 1 and 2, which was adopted last year, which does define how the parking should happen, but what you're adopting tonight does not mandate that a property owner rezone to that zoning classification, which would require a different parking arrangement. So this is completely unrelated to that. This is only related to uses. No development standards changes in regard to the overlay district. And to speak to the traditional marketplace 1 and 2 in the big box and that arrangement, in fact, we did design that such that the smaller users on the front end could actually be closer to the street, incorporate some amenities such as bike racks, public art, patios, and wider sidewalks to give more room in the rear where the big boxes are and have the shared parking in between. So it's really not going to be a new condition per se for the parking arrangement on big boxes. It's really going to be at the street level. You're going to see a change if property owners so choose to rezone and take advantage of some of those opened up uses and those smaller lot sizes. But again, that's at their discretion. That's not mandated by the overlay district.
So Nathan, are you saying that if you take where the old Big Lots is, and the parking lot's old Winn-Dixie lot, it's dilapidated, it's pretty bad. So if there was a business coming that would put a strip mall there out front, that would be closer to 10th Street with a sidewalk, parking in the back?
Correct.
So you move down to Mr. Transit, and say that was open, is that going to be consistent all the way down, or are we going to have a lot here where the parking's in the back and a lot here where the parking's in the front? Or
if I can, I'll try to answer that as best I can. So again, we can't mandate that they rezone to that new district that would require parking in the rear. So you could potentially have a big box store that has a large amount of parking in the front, very little structures, and then they put in a development at the very front with those elements I just described, parking in the rear, and then the next user down chooses not to go that route and keeps the 30% maximum in the front. See, we give a lot of waivers on this actually through Plan Commission, so that's why you see it a lot. All along in our code from the very beginning since 2001, it said only a maximum of 30% in the front. We waive that a lot of times. So there's been hints of this, in the beginning, but like I say, we'd like to see more of it. We'd like it to be consistent, and each lot on 10th Street kind of gradually transitioned to this so that it's a nice, it's just a nice pedestrian environment. It's even nice when you're driving down it and you can see people enjoying patios, such as Hoopsters. I'm sure you've seen that on a Friday night. It's very lively. We'd like to see more of those kinds of things. We can't mandate it, though. We're not in that position. And like I say, this overlay district does not mandate those parking arrangements.
I was on planning commission for quite some time, and that just really seems really inconsistent to me.
Which part?
Well, the big box stores with the parking out front, and then something where you have the parking in the back. If we run that all the way up and down 10th Street, I don't know how attractive that'll be. So if we approve that, I'm a little worried that planning commission members are they're probably one of the top boards, in my opinion, along with redevelopment, to really set the standard for the city and what's going on.
Sure.
And a lot of these companies will promise you something, and then they'll bring you something totally different. And then these commission members feel obligated to vote for it. And so I don't know that I'm in agreement with that. I mean, you're on there now. You on there, Scott? Give it some time, and you'll see from experience what these companies will bring to you. They don't care. They really don't care what you vote for, in a sense that they're going to bring you a bunch of variances, and they're going to put this pressure on you to vote for these things. And I just, I like to see some consistency in it. Maybe us really start to set the standard for what's being built in Jeff.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, and this is a good point, but that isn't a fault of the plan. That's a fault of the people implementing the plan. And I think regardless of what the plan is, you're always going to have that human factor of people who fall short. So that's why I believe that the plan, and worked with Nathan on this a couple times, when the widening project is finished, I've always been leery of calling that widening project really a redevelopment project. It's a road. But the way I have seen it, it is a redevelopment project. I mean, it drastically changes with sidewalks and with make safer, better access points. And while I understand what the concern here is about kind of like this mismatched parking, you might get a checkerboard of parking. The alternative is keep doing what has been done, and 10th Street stays. I mean, there is no, you got to have a vision first. And if people along the way don't carry forward with the vision, well, that's on those people. But I'm in support of this, although it certainly may not. Other reasonable people can disagree. But I think this is a step you have to have. I think you have to have a vision of where you want to be, and hope that people carry their weight.
Well, really, from Allison Lane on down to Spring Street, we don't have any open land we basically already have the hub. You have parking in the back. The printing place, budget printing, parking's in the back, and we're basically the 10th Street, we're going to do a lot of aesthetics to it that's going to make it more appeasing and all, but I don't really think we can do much on the 10th Street because it's already, you don't have open land like we do from Allison Lane on up to the 265 corridor where you have the open fields and you can start anew. But pretty much what's here is here. I can't see somebody tearing up parking lots and just to put a building up unless they buy a whole big area, like from Big Lots, that whole entire area. How would we change that? You understand what I'm trying to say, right?
Well, in fact, yeah, Quartermaster, the building is pushed to the perimeter of the parcel boundary and all the parking is interior. So yes, I mean, that's an example. Again, I understand the thoughts about the parking. I mean, what Lisa's described is the old condition, the 1900s development, the 1900 to 1920 or 30, these homes that are now the hub, which has parking in the rear. We want some of that, but in a new way, like Hoopsters has kind of mixed that up and done a patio and brought that building closer to the street. What you see is like a drive-through use like McDonald's, I'm just going to use them because they're ubiquitous. They come in, they look at the parcel, they stick it in the middle, they put a drive lane, a circle track around it, and then parking on the outside. So we're trying to get away from that. We're trying to go for a model where that McDonald's is pulled closer to the street. They're required to have a patio. You can still drive through it, but it's a different experience. And when you add those up along the way and you do more of those in this targeted area, that's what we want to see. Again, this overlay district doesn't define that. We've actually already really adopted the TM1 that can be used at any time. Somebody can come in tomorrow and go for that. This is really somewhat unrelated, but what's that?
Do they have to request a variance for that now?
No, we have the zoning code, the zoning classification set up to where if they wanted to do that exact thing, they could come in tomorrow, get a 5,000 square foot lot subdivided, meet code, put those amenities out there and plop in a building and do the infill. We want infill. We want more of the Waffle House, those strategic infill sites all on the way.
So if we really talked about it in terms of interior parking as opposed to parking in the back, because you can enter from the back and the side, it's really, it presents a different picture.
Right. Instead of driving down 10th Street and you see a building and then a large space, 200 feet, which includes some access points, parked cars, and then another building, you would see building, 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 an access point, building, 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 access point, and then parking behind those buildings, but then in front of the big box. That would be the hopeful condition, is to fill those building spots in. You still have parking.
Think of like Popeyes in front of Big Lots. Like
Yeah.
That's kind of what, line up a bunch of Popeyes in front of Big Lots, and then you got the parking in back and in front.
Right.
Like what Taco Bell did in front of Rural King. One of
Yes, but more of those.
Right.
Yeah, and tighter together. Yeah, but yes.
I think there's an important point to reiterate, as Ms. Thompson said, is that we can't put these types of standards and overlay districts together and then not be a cheerleader for the project. And I think one of the things that I know I've seen from Mr. Pruitt since Shane Corbin hired him is 10th Street has really been what you've been anxious to get at. And now that you're in this position, we can really shift our focus away from some of the other areas that are starting to take off and focus more on 10th Street, especially through redevelopment, and offer some of the things that we've offered to get Menards on Veterans Parkway, like you said, and to get some of the restaurants downtown that have now taken off. We can shift that focus here with these tools in place. I think that's important, and I'm glad she mentioned that, because it is important that we're going to have to be the cheerleader, so to say.
Are we still in public hearing?
We are. Was there anybody else who wanted to speak for or against? Yes, sir.
Miguel Hampton, 17 East 9th Street. I'm just curious. I know when the 10th Street Business Association was active, we talked about the development of 10th Street for a while. And I'm curious, one of the things we brought up a couple of years ago was having a master plan for that just very corridor that we're talking about before we just jump out there and leap, even with the development and the widening of 10th Street, in terms of what type of retail we want available, how we're planning. Is there an economic development plan just for this corridor, what it should look like, feel like over the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years? So it's more of a question than anything else. Thank you.
Mr. Pruitt, do you want to address that one also?
Yeah.
If you could sit closer, Mr. Pruitt.
I'll try. All right. Actually, it's a great question, and I think if you all will think back to some of these other times that I've been before you, especially with the auto moratorium that I'd presented as a stopgap measure between the new comp plan update and looking at our code, which is me being here today, I had mentioned that one of the initiatives that my department is going to take on, which of course I've got 2 new staff persons coming in the next 3 weeks, which is very exciting. I'm very excited about that, to get some help. And so one of the initiatives that I said that I was going to lead the charge on is to do a 10th Street corridor plan. So this would be a comprehensive planning document just like this that addresses land use, transportation, wayfinding, market studies, visual enhancements, sidewalks, pedestrian environment. I mean, literally anything that you would study in a comprehensive plan will be done on 10th Street. That's one of the charges that I'm going to move forward in the next year, but I had to get some staff to do it. I'm hiring a long-range planner. He's only going to be working on long-range initiatives, such as implementing our our bicycle and pedestrian master plan, our tree walk master plan, and then I'd like him to work in a combined effort and also hire a consultant and do both an in-house and a consultant long-range, probably a multi-10 and a 30-year look at 10th Street, what can be done there. So it's already in the works is kind of the answer. Hasn't officially kicked off yet. I haven't hired a consultant, and we haven't actually kicked off the project, but it's coming.
Anything further? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Council?
I have a couple comments. So I will not be supporting this ordinance tonight, and that's for a couple of reasons, a couple of concerns I have. The first one being that this sets a precedent for determining density of a particular industry, and I don't feel comfortable setting that precedent when we're establishing a number of gas stations in this ordinance per a certain area. I don't see that as being something that we should really get in the business of as the city council. And also then moving forward into the overlay district, I have concerns about, again, signaling out a particular industry. So, I mean, really every exception, or I'm sorry, everything that we are excluding to be allowed in this overlay district is auto-related. I didn't support the auto moratorium for similar reasons. And I'm also concerned with further limiting which potential businesses could come to 10th Street. I'm concerned with how long these properties will be vacated, how long are we going to have property owners, trying to sell their property, and now the people that they can sell it to is further limited. And so for those are the reasons why I won't be supporting this. I think that it's important when we're looking at redeveloping 10th Street and improving 10th Street that we should focus on what it is and improving that. If businesses are coming there for a reason, if we have a lot of auto-related businesses coming to 10th Street, it's I would imagine for demand or for a reason. Why not make it a destination and clean up the design standards and really own that that's what 10th Street is. If it's, I know Stacy mentioned that it's more low-income area. So the types of things that we would love to see there, it just might not be a good fit. So I think we should take that into consideration, and I won't be supporting this ordinance for those reasons.
So Callie, you're worried there's a limit on the gas stations?
Yeah, I worry about being able to control, we want this certain number of this industry. I worry about then opening that up to every type of business coming to the council saying, well, we really want a density ordinance for our industry. And we want, you to be able to say that we can only have a certain number of, whatever it is, nail salons or whatever within a particular area. And I just don't think that this is setting a good precedent for that.
Well, I've been a champion of trying to do something with 10th Street. Now, the problem we've had among 10th Street has been the gas stations, because we have abandoned gas stations up and down 10th Street. And they move out and we're just stuck because it becomes an environmental issue. We've got the cleanup issues. You've got tanks in the ground. It's very limited, which I guess is just a difference of opinion. But if you travel like in Clarksville, or you travel Sellersburg, or you travel all around, you don't see we have quite a few gas stations and banks. So I guess I don't want to have to drive. There's I guess for the best gas price, but if you look at, it's kind of the makeup of Jeff. We have gas stations on quite a few corners, and I just didn't want to see 10th Street being all about gas stations and then being abandoned and being stuck with, it looks like a blighted area, it looks like a low-income area, and a lot of that is because we have empty spaces where they moved out.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. We have a problem with a lot of abandoned gas stations. I don't think that dictating it's kind of a moot point because this ordinance specifically addresses that if it was an abandoned gas station, that we would allow another gas station to come there. So hopefully that if we do have gas stations that are wanting to come to 10th Street, they'll probably take advantage of the properties where tanks are on the ground. And I don't have a problem with something that we discussed in the workshop of, requiring the removal of the tanks if the business is leaving. I think that makes sense in terms of being able to use that property in the future. But again, I mean, if we're sending the signal that we do not want any auto-related businesses in this area, we don't want any gas stations coming to this area, how easy is it going to be then to have a gas station potentially take over that abandoned property and utilize it again? Or how likely is another auto-related business going to want to take on the additional costs of improving an abandoned gas station? Because we're sending a message here for that area, and that's what I have an issue with.
Any others?
If there's nothing, I'm going to make a motion to pass 2016 OR 45.
There's a motion and a second to pass 2014 OR, did we say 45?
Who seconded?
Dustin?
Dustin.
Mr. White? Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Pruitt. Ms. Metcalf, back up. 2016 OR 46.
This is a new additional appropriation request. The first one is for sanitation for vehicle. It's $18,073.32. That's for an insurance reimbursement. The next one is from your Finance Committee meeting, and I believe that you all had a workshop on that too before this meeting for overtime for the fire department at $100,000.
Oh, I guess. Sorry.
What was the sanitation vehicle?
The garbage truck that caught on fire.
Sorry.
Okay. I'll make a motion to pass 2016 OR 46 on first and second. The final hearings next meeting, correct?
Yes.
For the public hearing.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Scott Lewis, 2016 OR 47. This is an ordinance repealing ordinance 16 OR 4.
Yes, this is a simple ordinance that Matt had contacted me to prepare for tonight's meeting to recollect everyone's memory for the past several years because of circuit breakers. At the beginning of the year, the council has always passed an ordinance that had implemented procedures that even if certain capital expenditures and capital leases were in departments' budgets, we implemented something at the beginning of the year that said any capital purchases or capital leases in excess of $5,000 would have to come back before the council at a public meeting for specific approval because we wanted to wait to see what the circuit breakers, the impacts were, and the other budget revenues. And the way those ordinances are written each year was that those procedures would be in place for the entire calendar year until further action by the council. So now that we basically have the circuit breaker back, we know what those impacts are, we know what our budget revenues are for the rest of the year. I was asked to prepare this ordinance to repeal the 2016 OR 4 that implemented those procedures. So simple repeal of those ordinances, or excuse me, those procedures in the ordinance.
Does this need 3 readings?
It would still need 3 readings, yes. It's a typical ordinance, so standard ordinance that requires the 3 readings.
What does the council feel about entertaining the motion to suspend the rules?
Yeah, that's what I was going to do. I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules in anticipation of 2016 OR 47.
Second.
Does that have to pass on all members present or all members?
All members
All
present.
members present.
Okay.
Correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second to suspend the rules in anticipation of passing 2016 OR 47 on all three readings. And I'm confident Mr. Samuel would be in favor if you were here. Anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Then I make a motion to pass 2016 OR 47 on all three readings.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Anything further? For all three readings, everybody say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Ed Z.
Yeah, I put this item on the agenda because, and this is the Worley Park and the Parks Authority. I just wanted to set the record straight. Last week Tuesday, there was a story in the News and Tribune and also on the TV news under WLKY, where the Parks Authority president stated that it appeared that the city did not own any portion of Worley Park, and that we spent a lot of money on a park that we don't own. He's not sure why we're maintaining it and spending tax dollars on it. And I was surprised to hear that because I know I was at a lot of meetings as well as Ms. Gill and others when we were the Parks Authority, where we went through the whole process of doing a contract with the Clark County Soccer Association, deeding property over from the Clark County Soccer Association so that we could build that project out for the good of soccer and for the good of football, Jeff's football program. So one of the first calls I made was to Paul Duckworth, the president of the CCSA, and asked if he was contacted by the Parks Authority. He said he was not. And then I called Scott Lewis, who's the attorney under Parks Authority. I said, hey, Scott, what's the deal here? Or I know we signed a contract and everything, and he said, yep. I have a copy of that, and I asked him if he was contacted before the meeting. He said no. So I find it, if they want to do due diligence, they should contact some people if they can't find the information they need before they go to the public and give misinformation. So with that, I guess I'd ask Mr. Lewis if you could kind of clarify the contract and
Yeah, Ed asked me
the
to bring
ownership.
copies to everyone. This, for the council, this is copies that were in my files from 3 years ago, June of 2013, of the signed agreement that was signed by the parties. And for those members that were on the council then, on the Parks Authority, all that was done at a public meeting. There was subgroup committees of 3 or 4 members of the Parks Authority that met, including, Paul Northern from the Parks Department, Paul Duckworth, and like I said, the council members that negotiated these terms, and then we voted at a public meeting. Everything was done at a public meeting, and so I don't know why the Parks Department said they can't find copies, whoever said they can't find copies. Copies of the signed deed is in this too. I've stapled all together, the agreement with the deed from 3 years ago. So the particular parcel that is identified here, the city owns it. There's some talk that somehow it wasn't being reflected in the recorder's office or somehow the county records. I'm checking into that because I know the deed was taken there to be recorded. So I'm not sure why they say that it was not. But even then, the law is very clear. We have a copy of the signed deed. The law, case law is very clear. It's black letter law that the legal ownership or transfer is effective as of the date of a signed deed that's duly signed, notarized, and delivered to the grantee. So there's no legal dispute that we own the land in question. There is a legal agreement in place. People may not like the terms of the agreement, but it's freely negotiated between the parties. Agreements can always be amended or renegotiated. There's provisions in here where people say, why is the city paying for maintenance, utilities, and so forth? It's all spelled forth in this agreement about who's responsible for what maintenance costs, who's responsible for what utilities. There's provisions in there if there's disputes over how this agreement is being operated or maintained by the parties. There's a provision that says that the parties can enter into an informal settlement conference to work out any disagreements. If that doesn't work, you go to formal mediation as far as if there's any dispute over what's happening between the parties in operating this agreement. So I don't understand how all the confusion came about too. We have a signed agreement, we have signed deed, we own the land, there's an agreement in place. If the parties don't like the agreement, it can always be renegotiated or have settlement conference to address any concerns in terms of the agreement.
I will tell you this, I don't have the original, I don't have a copy of this.
Well, then that falls back on how many council meetings have I been, especially since I've been in office, where we stress to make sure that she gets all copies.
No, I'm just saying, this is,
We voted and actually signed it at a public meeting, all the copies were distributed at a public meeting, so.
yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that it never made it to the clerk's office, and it is not in, it still shows in the recorder's office and everything as belonging to Clark County Soccer Association. Yeah, I mean, even on their tax, yeah, because I just looked it up.
What news media, I mean, we've got News and Tribune that she can correct, but what media?
It was WLKY is the one I saw a story on the news, WLKY.
Can we contact WLKY and put out the right information then? I mean, I have personally.
As soon as it came to my attention, Les contacted me that night. The next day when I went through my files, I sent these copies, the signed documents to Les. So Les has these signed documents, so I know I get copies actually.
I mean,
copies once I went back and
I'll reach out to the reporter if you want me to. WLKY, that's not a problem.
Well,
You know-
I don't want my name smeared out because we were the Parks Authority.
I know.
I don't want any false information out there. If we can correct it with this, and I think part of the problem was if the clerk's office gets the contracts and agreements like she's supposed to, that could clear up a lot of this, but.
And there's a long history of this project of why it's a benefit to Jeffersonville and why we did the contract the way we did. But it was one of those, it was, I think, the first time we did a private-public partnership like this. And I know from talking to Mr. Duckworth, he said he'd be happy to talk to the new Parks Authority if there's something they don't like or something they want to change. They'd be happy to renegotiate the terms. If, I know there's questions about cutting the grass and okay, so I know one of the things that Ms. Duckworth said is, we probably can have people cut the grass, but we sold all our mowers now. If we have access to the mowers, we'll cut the grass. But there's different ways to negotiate, or if there's issues with the current contract, and I would invite the Parks Authority, the new Parks Authority, to go ahead and contact CCSA and see if there's certain terms that they want to change in the contract.
I think, just to clarify, the concern was finding the terms of the agreement, because Ms. Conlon didn't have the terms, Paul Northam didn't have the terms, and Les didn't have the terms of the agreement. They mentioned in the meeting that there was city council minutes that reflected an agreement signed. The problem was they just didn't have an agreement that spelled it out. In the meeting, in the Park Authority meeting where it was discussed, Mr. Lewis was contacted, I think, by Les, and Les asked if he had a copy of an agreement. And at that meeting, it was communicated that yes, Mr. Lewis was under the impression that he had it. So I don't know that there was an issue, and maybe there are issues with the agreement, or somebody doesn't like the agreement. But I think everyone on the council's end, the administration's end, CCSA's end, everyone was in favor of this project when it happened. So I don't think anybody's saying they're not in favor of being at CCSA.
I guess I'd just ask that if they, looking for information and they can't find it, I can totally respect that. I know it's hard to find some information sometimes, but don't go to the press and kind of imply that it's not there or it hasn't been done. Just, take a little time and make a couple phone calls and find out.
Does anybody have any idea where the original could be? Who was given the
I would
original?
go over to the courthouse and find out. That's where it would be. The courthouse would be recorded. When you record a deed, it goes straight to the recorder's office. It goes.
No, I know. Assessor and all that.
Assessor's office first, then the auditor's office, then the recorder's office, because this was a split from a larger piece of land. So before it's recorded, the assessor and the auditor have to assign a brand new parcel number, So there's multiple steps that happen. I don't know why it's not being recorded.
It's lost somewhere because it's, like I said, the tax ID number is
Just
still.
reminders, let's contact you next week, but I have to
Yeah.
do a lot of real estate work. I'm going to dig through it and make sure that it's reflected properly in the court records. But there is the deed dated from June 2013, the case law is very clear. That is the effective date of the trade and sale of the land. There's nothing to do with that.
Anything
So,
further?
unless another deed is made and recorded first. That's a Lori joke, I'm sorry.
Council attorney report?
Yeah, I just have one thing to remind everyone. I've been working on trying to get the information together for an ordinance for the internal control standards. That's a new law that was passed through the legislature, required by DLGF, became effective July 1st. We have technically until December 31st, 2016, to the next calendar year. We have an ordinance in place in terms of control standards. There's kind of a template that DLGF and different county systems recommended. There's minimal standards, you can kind of do more stringent standards if you so desire. But also part of the of this internal control standards ordinance, there's actually a training component that's required. And I've been, our clerk Vicki's been good enough to invite me to watch the webinars with her in her office to make kind of get up to speed. The interesting thing I want to alert to the council is that I think maybe there was an additional impression that the training was only going to be employees, like maybe in the controller's office that handle finances. It's actually includes, it's pretty broad, according to the information the state's given me. It includes basically any body, like a body like a council, a commission that approves claims, not just someone who handles money. So technically, what they're recommending is that city council members have to go through this training. Anyone that handles money. So there's going to be a lot of employees in the city, not just people that approve claims, but anyone that handles money, people at the swimming pool, parks, and so forth. Now, the training itself is actually fairly easy. It's only, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vicki, but apparently it's just a 30-minute video that's on the DLGF website. That everyone will have to log in, watch this video, and then by the end of the calendar year, December 31st, there's a certificate that we have to file that all these basically employees, council members, any bodies, governmental bodies such as sewer board, whatever that approves claims, they all have to participate in this training. So, you know, you can either be on the honor system that are going to do it, fill out under oath that you've done the training. One thing that I came up with an idea maybe with all these various city employees who are handling the money, especially like the parks employees, I think it would not be fair to ask them on their free time to watch the training video because that's technically a work-related matter. Maybe we can discuss with the administration about maybe scheduling times to come into this room, have the video hooked up to the screen, it's a 30-minute video during work times. I think that is a work-related matter, so that we can keep track who's showing up and kind of document who's watching the training video. That's just a thought.
I think we should watch it on the river stage,
Stage.
the new video board.
I just want to remind
Would
You
it
can
be-
quote me on that.
You all have to watch this video too, because you're a body that approves claims, they're telling us you're included for this training.
In terms of-
No, it's not. It's not. So there's no affidavits or something like that. Yeah, you need affidavits. It doesn't track. It's not going to log in. So you're either under the honor system or have people come in groups.
Yeah, and this is,
an idea.
and this is the minimum training to go through. My staff and I have already been through it and signed the affidavits, and and the other thing I've done is scan them into public documents, so we'll have them in case State Board of Accounts or somebody wants to see them. So that's another thing we can do, is when they sign off on the affidavits, to scan them into public documents. So
Is this
we
something
have
that we should incorporate moving forward in our onboarding process for any new employees? I mean, just to do it all
They
at once?
they said that everybody, so I mean, yeah, it should be something that would work. They even discussed that, new employees coming in,
Yeah,
do it during the orientation process.
Yeah, you know, we implement the ordinance this calendar year and training existing employees, even like for future years, like next year or whatever, new employees still have to go through this training. If you're one of those type of employees that are actually handling money, approving claims, or even preparing claims.
So we'll have to go through and basically have an exhaustive list of all of the positions that would include and
I
then
think
track
there's
it.
more employees than everyone.
Right, all department heads.
So all new people, whether they're currently going to handle money or not, I can't think
I
of a
know.
position where eventually they might handle money, and then it becomes a, oh, if you,
Yeah, I
we
was
would,
thinking-
but you haven't seen the magic video yet.
Even
So
just for like,
Well,
just go ahead and have everybody.
And it's actually processing the claims too.
yeah, I mean, because
I mean, it's everything.
I can't see a reason why it wouldn't even be just easier to track if you said every employee should go through a 30-minute video.
And is that annual training, or is that just a one-time gig?
It's one time for old employees, or new employees, yeah.
Yeah. so it's-
Or people like me, it's a one-time thing.
Gotcha. I got to do it every year.
You have to do it every year.
I probably need it.
But there was a lot to this. It was a question and answer, yeah.
And actually, Vicki's on top of it, she provides some information, we have watching the webinars in our office.
All right, thanks for working on that, Scott.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay. Are there any department heads that would like to speak? No? Easy enough. Was there any other public comment?
No, no one else signed up for public comment.
Council comments? Mr. White?
Do you want to talk about the board?
Yep, we can.
Okay.
I got it on the list.
I'll say my comments.
Okay. You'll save? Okay. We've got to, as a council, make a new appointment to redevelopment. Been several conversations about this, I think. Kyle Williams, who had been serving as our appointment, has to come off because he's moved outside the city limits. I've expressed interest. I know there have been a couple others tossed around. So we, I guess, open up for a nomination.
I'd like a report from redevelopment, if you could give us one.
Just in general, or?
Sure, you just had a meeting last week. What's going on?
We did have a meeting last week. Some of the items that were on our agenda was going through and starting the process of a new bond agreement. And I was actually speaking with a couple of council members before the meeting to get some clarification from UMBA, who performed the analysis of the bond. Again, that's going to be quite a long process. This was just the first step. And then also, Monty Snelling, the president of the board, proposed a plan for what he'd like to see happen with Colson Park, with really making that area dedicated to having the historical markers and bringing in different groups like I think Daughters of the
American Revolution.
American Revolution, thank you. And so we looked at a plan for that. It was actually a pretty short meeting in terms of actually what we had for the public meeting. There was an executive session before that. But also then just a lot of projects that are in the planning phase and design phase.
What kind of projects do they have going on?
Like the 10th Street widening, Holman's Lane, the north end of 10th Street. That's been in discussion. So really the same every week we come in and see the same projects moving a little bit closer. We finally met with the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. There is some back and forth about a number of trees that we needed to plant at the marina, and that was finally settled. So, yeah, and they're
What
public
about
meetings.
this, I'm curious about this $29 million that you guys want to bond.
What are
So
you
could
curious?
you tell us more about that?
I'm certainly not going to claim to be a bond expert, but I mean, it's something that we're looking at for the future developments that
So is that for the widening of 10th Street and Holman's Lane?
No, this bond it wouldn't take effect until 2019, I believe. And it's not dedicated to specifically one project. But I can send you the contact with UMBA.
Well, no, I think that you're there to come back to us to tell us what's going on. I don't need to call UMBA. I feel like we appoint somebody from this council on a board, that the person that we appoint should be able to come back and tell us what's going on, without a doubt. This $20 million bond, from what I understand, is going to be over the 2% debt limit, Matt. So if you get appointed to this board, I would think that that would be an issue for you. It's an issue for me. I think that come our next meeting, we're going to be asked to suspend some rules.
What are you talking about?
Well, it looks like there's a lease, and I'm not sure because I'm not on redevelopment, but there's some kind of lease agreement.
That's a proposed timeline, and it was made very clear in the meeting that it's,
And that's what I'm asking is I want some details about that. I want to know what's going on with redevelopment.
Have you tried attending a redevelopment meeting?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't.
so the timeline that you're referring to is a proposed timeline, and that was in regards to the whole process that would need to go through for this bond, and it was made very clear, Les made very clear that there are several things, for example, having a special meeting with planning and zoning, I believe, and having the council suspend all rules, that would likely not happen, which would delay the process further than what's proposed here.
I was told that this bond is for the widening of 10th Street, the widening of Holman's Lane.
We shouldn't have to bond for 10th Street because we have an 80/20 on that.
We have 80/20 on that. So I just want clarification that that is not what this is for. I haven't been to a redevelopment meeting, and that's my fault. If you're sitting on a redevelopment meeting, and that's what this is about,
Sure.
this widening project, which we've all been told that there's money there. We're going to use cash to widen 10th Street. We're going to use cash to widen Holman's Lane, which I think we all just got dragged through the mud on this airport deal in Holman's Lane. So it seems to be that there is some question there as to really what's going on. And that's all. I'm just asking for answers. And I think we're obligated for that, and I think they're all obligated to that.
So Josh, do you want to start going to the meetings?
Let me just say this. What I would
I set my
appreciate,
schedule
though,
weeks in advance, so I just can't take off another day to go to a redevelopment meeting. If I'm going to go to them, I will schedule myself off work. And to answer your question, yes, I'm going to start going to those meetings, because then I'll know what's going on. I won't be dependent upon somebody else. But here's this.
I would just appreciate if you have a lot of questions specifically, and I don't normally bring my redevelopment meeting notes with me to a city council meeting, so being bombarded with questions I didn't know that you had an interest in me answering, at least I would have been able to bring my notes from the meeting and prepare those for you. But I'd love to answer your questions.
I think that when we get appointed to boards, we should know what's going on with them, and, it's no disrespect, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to you, Callie. I'd like a report from that. I'd like a report maybe from planning and zoning, because those are important boards. I'd like Parks Authority for us to maybe have an update from that. Scotty's on the 911 advisory board. Those are things that I think we need to keep up with. I get those questions and calls all the time. So, and if you want to send it in an email, that way we can share it in our meetings. I don't have any issues with that. So. Thank you.
Well, I think the subject was the appointment to the redevelopment commission. So if there were any nominations.
I'll tell you what, Josh seems pretty interested in Josh, you're not on any other boards, I don't think, are you? I'll make a motion to put Josh on redevelopment.
How many people, what is with a missing person, explain to me the way this vote works?
Mr. Lewis?
The missing person doesn't impact the vote because you have a quorum. So it's still, other than it's a majority vote, which is still, a majority vote would be 5 members of the entire board. Okay, it's not a majority of those present. You still need 5 votes. Because 5 votes is the majority of a 9-person board.
So there's a motion from Mr. Rodriguez. Is there a second? Is there a second? Okay, the motion will die for lack of a second.
I make a motion to appoint Matt Owen to the redevelopment board.
Second. It's a motion and second to make me the appointment. Anything further?
I'd like to say something. Matt, I'm not going to vote for you, but it's not personal in any way. I think you're very competent, but you're also very busy. And that's why I thought it'd be great to have someone like Josh who got elected and wants to get involved in the community and has not yet been part of any board. So just wanted to explain why I'm not going to vote for you.
Anything further? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Aye. Let's take a roll call vote.
Councilperson White?
Aye.
Councilperson Sostovny?
No.
Councilperson Yon?
Aye.
Councilperson Maples?
Aye.
Councilperson Gill?
Aye.
Councilperson Hawkins. Yeah.
Well, you went out of order.
Well, he's
He's gonna vote for himself, aye,
I
aye,
mean, you know, yeah.
Aye for the recording.
Councilperson Rodriguez.
No.
So there's already 5 yeses without Matt's vote. 2, 3, 4, 5.
It passes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. President,
Oh, yeah. I can't count.
Mr. President, I think Mr. Zastavny made a good point, and you do sit on a number of boards. Do you, would you have a suggestion of one that it would be appropriate, and if Josh is interested in, that we would appoint him to?
Yeah, I sit on the Parks Authority and
Solid Waste.
Solid Waste as council.
Well, he has to sit on Solid Waste as council president.
that is
No.
true by statute.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, it is by statute. The president sits on it. Yes, they do.
We've
it's not
not
been
adhered to
that
that.
previously.
Is that
I didn't
correct?
sit on it as president, and nobody told me it was statute,
Yeah, the
so-
statute
My bad, I did
is,
not
I've
know
read
it
the statute several times. It is.
So nobody said
And I
a
know-
word
Council
when we did
president.
appointments, so.
Mr. Rodriguez, I also
Good to know.
you've been on planning and zoning before and did a great job. I'd be willing to step aside to give him a chance to serve on the board if the council willing.
It's not my intent to serve on any boards. I actually would like to see a public citizen sit on the redevelopment board than an elected official. Especially when you have, no pun intended here, 5 Republicans sitting on a board. I think that's irresponsible government, but I wouldn't be in favor of that. And Ed, I appreciate your nod for planning and zoning, and it was not my intent to sit on redevelopment. So with that said, I'm okay with planning and zoning board being the way it is.
And I'd be okay coming off Parks if you'd like to sit on Parks. I know that there's
I
been a
don't
lot
like the
of...
way the Parks Authority set up now, and I'm not going to sit on that board either. It would be my recommendation that Parks Authority come back to the city council.
I didn't realize that he did not want to sell any boards. I apologize for bringing that up.
That's where I'd be at with the Parks Authority.
So citizens should be on redevelopment, but the city council should be
There's
the
been
Parks
some
Authority.
good citizens on redevelopment commission. No, it's just this term, it seems that we have just automatically put all elected officials on that board, except with maybe Jack Vissing. So, that's where I stand at with it.
Okay. Mr. White, did you have any other council comments?
No.
Okay. Mr. Zastani?
Nope.
Ms. Yan?
No, thank you.
Mr. Maples? Ms. Gill?
Yeah. Just want to remind everybody that National Night Out is tomorrow, and I think I saw it on Facebook, but it's National Police Appreciation Day, so I appreciate you guys and everything you all do, and if you please extend that, and also to our favorite council person here that has to be in law enforcement. I appreciate that, and I just wanted to clarify, because I sent out emails that I too agreed with. I really wanted a private citizen on redevelopment. I did have concerns too with Matt with all his responsibilities, but him and I had a long conversation, and I know you've been attending redevelopment, so you're up on everything, so I think you're responsible enough that if you do get in over your head, that maybe you come to us and say, hey, I need to step off of something, because this city is moving forward, and I want a good representation. I'd like to see that considered, so that's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Hawkins?
I do, and I call it the good, bad, and the ugly, and since Nathan isn't here, I'll make it stay longer. The first thing is, I think I'm getting some fantastic emails and pictures sent from the students that we found a way to give funding to go to the Fringe Festival in Scotland. By not using taxpayer money and using gaming revenue, they are there now, and they are having an FOP. There was many community members pulled together. That cost a lot of money. There was a lot of moving parts, a lot of people, and they are really representing us well, and they have an absolutely fantastic time. In fact, today, 5 hours ago, they were seeing plays in the theater district in London before they're on their way now to Edinburgh. So fantastic. So thank all of you for supporting that and everybody else. And if I tried to list the people, I'd forget somebody for sure.
Well, Mr. Hawkins, Nathan always shares his, you can share some of those pictures with us.
Well, I could. And then the second thing is where I'm going to do my Nathan Samuels imitation. I'm looking at our budgeting into the future here, and this is not the happy place that we would like it to be, I don't think. If my math is correct, and if we can expect an increase in a little less than 3% next year, which is typically the norm, and if our circuit breakers fall to where we're being told that they may in fact be falling to, we're basically going to be, by my calculation, and I'm not somebody that does this for a living, we are going to be flat. We are going to gain, and yet we are going to be flat. So we need to keep that in mind, and again, I'm channeling Nathan for us, as people come forward with credible expenditure requests. These will be, that will carry over into next year as well. That's going to be the kind of unspoken expectation, and I don't see the bottom line moving, and we need to kind of keep that in mind. And then the last thing as well, the situation, through no one's fault, I think here where we have this nomination here at the end for redevelopment, because of the kind of extraordinary circumstance of which Mr. Rodriguez finds himself getting on the council after the council has been deciding things and being places, through no one's fault, kind of created this situation. I will say that this is the first time in any meeting, be it executive session, when we met before we took office, and up to tonight, it is the first time that it has been mentioned anybody's political affiliation. And I had been really happy and surprised by that. That was a pleasant surprise by that. And I have not, I don't believe people have, and I certainly have not acted in any way to think, well, a D or an R is on a board. And I hope no one else has either. But I certainly have not, and I wanted to make sure Mr. Rodriguez kind of got the feeling for that, because he was not here when we put all of those boards in place. Everyone had an opportunity to be on any board, and sometimes people lost bets and had to serve on certain boards, and however the case was. But I wanted to make that clear as well, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Scott. I would ask that Jason Jackson from the FOP Lodge come up here. We want to thank Jason. And Kevin Moreland, if you come up, we have a big day tomorrow in Jeffersonville with Community and Police Partnership. And we sure do appreciate these guys. They keep our streets safe.
Yes, they do.
Tomorrow, if you go to a National Night Out event, the FOP was kind enough to approve our grant request for $2,000 for some bounce houses. There's going to be a photo op at every neighborhood with an FOP sign, so we would appreciate you stopping and taking a picture with these guys. We really do appreciate that. Thank you.
Anything else?
Anything else?
No, I'm done.
Okay.
I just started raising it up.
Just a reminder, because we need to do this again, I have scheduled to have our council picture taken before our next meeting at 6:30. They're going to come in. We took a picture at the beginning of the year, but the council has changed since then. So we will have that done right before our next meeting. Also, we need to set hearing dates for the budget sessions. And I don't know if everybody wants to bust out their calendars and kind of look. Heather and I have talked about this a little bit, and I think we'd like to shoot for the last 2 weeks of August. Budget hearings usually take a couple of weeks. We set aside several nights during those 2 weeks and meet at least a couple of departments each night. Um, That week, I am fairly open except the 23rd and 25th, but I can make arrangements if we need to change things around. I'm looking at the week of the 22nd and the week of the 29th.
25th, we have a meeting with fire department.
So the 25th is out.
22nd, your Parks Authority meeting.
Is it?
Yep.
There's 5 Mondays in this month.
Oh, that's right. So
How many nights did we schedule last year, Heather? How many nights did we have?
4? I think so.
Okay,
No, it was more than that.
Yeah, because we had a night just for council to kind of,
We had 2 in September. We had 4 in August and 2 in September. We did the minutes.
6.
so we had 6. Okay.
So how does the 24th? You throw it out there, 6 o'clock? So the 24th at 6 p.m.? The 26th, how does that look?
No. It's a Friday.
Yeah.
I'm not,
Are these
Friday
open?
night's out.
What kind of
These
meetings
are
these?
public meetings.
Every workshop meeting is out.
Basically, yeah, it's a workshop.
How long do they typically last?
We usually schedule a couple of hours.
Till at least 9:30.
We can go 6 to 9:30 and try to get in less days. It's always at least a couple of hours.
I'd say go longer, fewer,
Yeah.
easier to schedule.
I agree.
All right, so we've got the 24th so far. What about the 29th? There are no council meetings, no parks meetings. It's a Monday that's usually open, unfortunately. 29th at 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Would the 30th be planning and zoning? Is that the 4th
Yes.
Tuesday or the last Tuesday?
It's always the
30th is
last Tuesday of the month,
Planning and
so it will
zoning
be
is on the 30th.
Yep.
Okay. And then redevelopment would be the 31st.
Can you? We've got to get with her too, because she's got to pick up
No, it's
kids.
the last.
I'm sorry.
Pat, I've got to get with Patsy too,
I'll just have to look.
because it'll be Patsy and I, we take the minutes.
Well, if anything, because we did have last year a couple of meetings where you all just recorded,
Mhm.
because I think you had a scheduling conflict, something came up. So as long as we have that recorder on,
And so 24th, 29th, and then what did you offer, the 31st, is that what you said?
The 31st would be redevelopment.
Oh, okay.
I'd have to leave it.
The first is meeting with the fire,
It's usually-
or with police.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also the Fire Merit
It depends
Commission.
on the agenda, but it's usually around.
What's our deadline?
Not till October, the end of September. But we have to have a couple of council meetings.
Are we meeting on the 5th, Labor Day, is that Labor Day?
No, we'll meet on the 6th.
Go to an hour before that meeting?
Yeah, we could get through at least the council's budget and maybe the clerk's budget before.
Then you want to start at 5?
I'm good if
I mean, seriously, because you got to remember, we
Yeah,
we have to get ready.
we've got a lot of,
And that's the day after a holiday, so we're going to have to start early.
yeah.
6 to 5.
Yep. So
5
September
o'clock.
6th at 5.
I mean, if you want to do a Friday, if we do it during the day, but I can't do it at night.
How about Wednesday the 7th? What do we got Wednesday the 7th?
I won't be here at day.
You won't be available that day? What about
I will be late if you start at 6.
on the 7th? Okay, we can do that. The 7th at 6.
How many are you planning on doing at night? 3 or 4?
Well, that would be 4.
No, I mean, how many
Oh,
apartments?
Departments.
Because you're going to do 2 on the 5th.
Hopefully we could get through 3. Is that pushing it?
I do suggest when we do police, and fire, and parks that we allow ample time and not have them all on the...
Same
We
night.
do police and fire together, which I'm fine with that, but when we do parks, we need to put it lighter, because there's a lot to go through with those three.
We do parks and IT together.
Yeah,
IT's a lot
parks,
budget.
IT, planning and zone, those are the easier
Should we
budgets.
plan one more for measure, or you think we're good with 4?
Can we plan the 8th also, just in case we need it?
You can do it, I'll be here at 7.
Can you do it? We're just going to have to figure it out.
Play it by ear.
Yeah. Because like I said, there's only 2 of us.
Right. So the 8th at 6?
So we have the August 24th and 29th, both at 6. We got September 6th, 5 o'clock before council, and then September 7th and 8th at starting at 6. Correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, when's it have to be adopted, Heather?
Adoption is the last meeting in October, and the public hearing is the first meeting in October.
So we could even go,
We could even go farther if we need to.
yeah, I know, but we've also got to get,
Okay.
because the thing is, and I'll do whatever you all want to do, but you got to remember, we've also got to get packets ready, plus do the minutes. So, yeah,
Well, we also got to remember, you guys are here all day long, as it is.
so,
Okay. We'll start with there, and if we need to make adjustments as we go, we can.
I don't want that.
I'm forgetting something.
Motion to adjourn.
There needs to be a motion to adjourn.
Did you have any comments?
Nah, that's all.
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.
From